Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And we're very excited to have this amazing webinar about building apps using Microsoft Power App with zero coding skills presented by wonderful LeAndra. I'll let her tell more about herself and all the other interesting projects she's working on, including her podcast. A little bit more about Bulgarian Women in Tech. I'm one of the members of the organization. We are a nonprofit organization that is based in Seattle, Washington, but we have members all over the world. And our mission is to empower women in tech globally. And we focus on different events. Our three main aspects of events are networking, as well as building new skills to help your career. And lastly, bringing you inspiring speakers to motivate you to accomplish your career goals. We want to ensure our events are inclusive, accessible, and diverse. So all of our events are free of charge, and all of them currently and have been for the most of 2020 have been virtual, so everyone can join from anywhere in the world. And we welcome anyone regardless of their gender, ethnicity, nationality to join us and share their experience with us. With no further ado, I'm going to let her start the webinar and learn how to create apps.
Awesome. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am LeAndra Jordan, and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer. I'm also the owner of Draven Business Solutions and the podcast host for She's So Techie. And She's So Techie is similar to the efforts of your organization, Bulgarian Women in Tech. We provide a platform for Black women to encourage them and empower them and really hopefully motivate them to start and grow a career in technology. So today I am here to talk to you about PowerApps, and I'm going to share my screen here. And I am working with three screens. I feel like a DJ a lot of times when I'm doing my conferences. I have my screens up because I want to be able to share all the information I possibly can with you. And at Draven Business Solutions, I pretty much assist my clients with their end user adoption and show them how to increase productivity leveraging Microsoft technologies. And during my years of servicing my clients, I've learned that in a digital age, that data is just everywhere, right? Companies are gathering data from much of what we do. However, the raw data, it's useless. What we need is to process the data, have it structured, and get the information from it to gain tangible value. So some of us are looking to automate processes and increase proficiency. And this is where the Power Platform comes into play. You see, the Microsoft Power Platform combines Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agents into a single robust business application platform. So it enables your business to craft solutions while empowering you to unite customized technology to help everyone. You see, organizations can use the Power Platform to build data visualization. They can use it to streamline and automate their processes across connected data sources, important to note, all the while unlocking the potential of Office 365 and Dynamics 365. Today, we're highlighting PowerApps, which is a low-code, often referred to as a no-code, low-code approach to building apps. The beauty of PowerApps, and hopefully you'll discover this here in this talk and any other resources that are provided with you, as well as exploring this on your own, you'll see that you can easily build web and mobile apps, with very little coding, if not any coding at all. And it also allows you to connect to existing data. Very important. You know, I mentioned that a moment ago. It's important to note that you can connect with existing data, many different connectors using Power Apps. And then there's also a strong enterprise and governance and security that comes with it. And I know it's not unusual for me to hear, you know, much like myself, you know, I'm not a developer. And from developers, pro developers, I've heard, you know, the notion of, okay, so I'm not sure, should we put this in the hands of our users here at the organization? And the answer is absolutely yes. Hopefully, if you haven't experienced Power Apps, you'll get to see exactly why I say that. Because you can empower every developer to do more. And we're not just talking about pro developers here, okay? There are citizen developers like myself, a non-professional developer who builds applications for use by other people. So it's empowering every developer. So if you're wondering, since I mentioned that I am a citizen developer with very little experience, I can tell you my journey. Okay. So just earlier this year, Donna Sakar, who is the principal advocate of the Microsoft Power Platform, introduced me to Power Apps. And she explained to me that I could build an app quickly using the skills that I already have. For example, PowerPoint and Excel and working with SharePoint and OneDrive for Business. And she said, you know, you can do this. And I'm thinking, okay, Donna. And she set me out on this challenge, and I only had 3 days to fashion my app. So my first thought was, okay, surely I need some type of coding experience to get to this process, but you know, I'm gonna soak up as much as I can and see what I can do. So I played it cool and I took the challenge. And along the way, I soon discovered that I would be able to create a usable app in as little as 3 days with absolutely no coding experience. And in my 3 day journey, just some points, some notes I would like to point out. I was able to complete my app, my starter app, using the Canvas experience. And my method to do that was to reverse engineer a sample app. So I took a completed application and I pretty much broke it apart. I was like, let me see how this thing works. And I was able to create my own, and I tested it and I shared it with other individuals and I got feedback from them. And so at the start of it, I watched quite a few videos. There were YouTube videos, all kind of videos out there on Power Apps, and I read articles, but then I came across a basic tutorial, right? It was a basic tutorial that guided me through the process of creating an app. And the app was created from an Excel workbook that is stored in Microsoft OneDrive for Business. The Excel workbook lists a company's inventory. It was flooring inventory. It had sample pictures and prices. And the actual application, once completed, allowed you to browse through and you can select one of the flooring options. And once you made that selection, it gave you more details about that flooring. And so it was actually created with the people on the front line, if in mind, if you will. If you were a salesperson and you were going out to do an estimate, you could use this app, go through the gallery of inventory, look at pricings, and pretty much engage with your customer right there on the spot and get the answers that you were looking for. Such a simple app. So what we do is, as a starting place, I said, okay, I got comfortable with the worksheet. I took a look at the tutorial and I discovered that there are 5 steps to building an app, which is planning it, designing, making, testing, and then going back and refining what you've done so far. And I said, okay, I'm ready. So using the link that you see there on my screen, you can go to make.powerapps.com to get started. And it's my understanding as well that if you go to the Power Apps website, that you can download a trial and you can get going and get started for free. So my first Power App experience, remember, I used the tutorial as a guide. So I decided to start with an Excel workbook as well. And in my planning process, I decided to create an app with information on national flowers, right? And the design of it would be a 3-screen app. So it'd have 3 screens in my app. And my Excel workbook, I decided to store it in my organization's OneDrive. And what I did was I replaced the flooring data. Remember, I looked at that tutorial and I included links to the images for my application. I renamed the file, I gave it headers, and it was very important to make sure as I was using an Excel workbook that my data was in a table. And I'll show you why that's important and during the demo. Right? So I began to create my app using Excel data online, and from there I connected to the table. And, that took me to the PowerApps Studio, which is where all of the magic happens. It does the heavy lifting for you because it looks at that Excel worksheet and it inspects the data and it matches it with Power App capabilities so you can have a working app as a starting point. So I didn't start with a blank canvas. I started with my data. And when it was all done, this is an idea, a glimpse at what my app started out. This was the look that I had. Those are the national flowers and the name of the flowers and the associated countries. And I made some changes along the way. But just as promised in the tutorial, it was a 3-screen application. So I have a browser screen with my gallery. There's a detail screen with the details of the flower. And then there's a screen for me to make changes. So I can edit in my application as well. I can add information, I can delete information, I can update information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a new screen with you. And you are looking at PowerApps. The link that I've shared with you earlier, and I'm going to share it with you again, the make.powerapps.com, that it's going to take you here to this particular screen. And this is the starting point. Now I'm going to scroll a bit just to point it out because as you are interested, and for those of you that are developers that are among us, if you want to take a look at what the Power App Buzz is, it's a great starting point. There's learning at every level. So there are other tutorials available to you. There are also templates that are available. And if you're feeling really creative, you can start creating your app from a blank canvas. But I told you, I wasn't as creative, so I am starting my app using Excel Online. So I'm here on the screen. I'm going to select Excel Online. But you can see it in the background there, setting things up for me to create the new app. Now, I've already connected to OneDrive, but I want to show you what it looks like when it's out of the box and you haven't been in here, had a chance to explore. There are a lot of connections, as I promised, available to you. So if you work with Dropbox and Azure File Storage and other common data, as well as Dynamics and File System and FPTs, and there's Google Drive and SQL and so on and so on and so on. There are over 250 connectors available to you to connect to your data. I'm going for OneDrive for Business, which is what you see here. And since I'm already connected, I'll take a step back. And this is what you see here. So I'm connected to my data set. I'll select it. And what it's looking for Excel, my Excel file. But I have it tucked away in a folder. So it's good to know that you can keep things organized in a folder. And this is the Excel workbook that I would use to create my application. Going to select Flower Power. And here's the table. So remember I told you in an Excel workbook, it's important that you arrange your data in a table. Well, this is why. Because Power Apps is looking for an organized data set. And because it's organized in a table, it's easily identifiable. And I named that table Flowers. I need you to keep that one in mind. I named that table Flowers. Down below in the bottom right-hand corner, I'm connecting. And Power Studio is doing the heavy lifting for me. working out the connection. And pretty much what's happening is it's taking the data, my raw data, and it's structuring that data the best that it knows how into 3 different screens, which is what you see here. So the first screen that you see is my browser screen. But over here on the left-hand side, the default view is what we call a tree view. This is where I'm able to interact with the elements in my app, at least one way. It's more than one way to accomplish a task, usually with Microsoft technologies. You see that the browser screen is highlighted here, the header, and that's the view that we have here. And if you've worked with Microsoft PowerPoint, this may stand out to you. Over here on the left-hand side as well, in the tree view, I have my detail screen. So when I select the header, it switches to the detail screen. And then the third screen is the edit screen, right? So PowerApps, as you can see, was able to take my Excel spreadsheet and arrange it based on the data in that table. And so I have a decent and actually a welcome starting place to develop this app. Now, I'm a shortcut person. I like shortcut keys. I like the keyboard shortcuts. So I was happy to see at the very bottom of this screen, near what we would call the status bar, drop down. And so I can navigate between the 3 screens using the button on the status bar. So how you choose to move through it, totally up to you. Just want to make sure I show you that you have options here. So we're starting with our browser screen, which is our first screen. And I'm taking a look at the data. And I see that it has the name of the country associated with the flower. I see my images, everything is intact. And then there's a little description here underneath the name of the country. I think that's too much information for my browser page because we're talking about browsing. So what I'm going to do is arrange the fills in this gallery. And I love this. What you see is what you get, meaning what I see here on the screen is what it's going to look like in the finished product. And the beauty of it all is that I can work with it right here from the screen. So I'm going to select this area, this larger area. Notice I have the border around the entire gallery. That's what I'm looking for. And if you prefer to use the tree view, over here on the left-hand side, you'll see that it's highlighted browser gallery. So that's what's selected, and I need that because over here on the right-hand side of the screen, I'm going for the properties. That's right, I'm looking at the fills properties. I want to change the fills. So I'll hit edit. And if you're wondering how it came up with those fills, well, it's based on my table, the fill names across the top of your data set in your table. So we have edit. I'm going to go in here. And so the first thing I want displayed, which is the title, just match with Argentina here. I'm going to hit the drop down because instead I would like for the name of the flower to appear. There it is. And the subtitle, where we're getting rid of the description. Remember, we'll save that for our description screen or detail screen. And so I am going to put the name of the country as a sort of subtitle. And we'll leave the image intact. I'll click away. And that's a little bit better. So got rid of that long description there. You can also arrange these, you can also resize and reposition the fields. For example, I'm going to select the country, slide it over a bit, and because this is a gallery, what I do in the active area, field area, card, it's called a card, C-A-R-D, whatever I do in that active card, you see that it affects the other ones, the other options on this page. And so that's good. I only have to do it one time. And if I move it here, you see that it moves it down below. We're going to leave everything intact. Now, if clicking and dragging bothers you, that's okay. You can do exact positioning, right? Once you have a field selected, over here in the properties, down below, there is a section. So you can type in the exact position. And this is what I was saying and what Donna Sakar shared with me. She was like, LeAndra, you can take those PowerPoint skills and you can use those skills in designing your Power App. And so hopefully, if you've experienced PowerPoint or any other slide presentation software program, you see the connection or the similarities in what we're doing so far. Right? So that looks okay. Now remember the name of my table, I named it flowers. And so the name of the application or the name that you see on the actual app is flowers. It takes on the name of the table. Well, we can change that. I'm just going to select it and type in national flowers. Get that spelling together, LeAndra. Click away. Ah, there we have it. Now, the one thing about this, just so here's some tips along the way that I've learned that I'm going to share with you. When you make that particular change, you have to go to each screen. And so I'm going to go to the detail screen and make that change there. And remember, this is my out of the box experience. Learning along the way. And I'll make the change on the third screen as well. And I'm looking at the chat window. I know I said I was going to wait to the end, but I'm looking at the chat window just in case. Can we incorporate multiple data files or tables in the same app? Yes, Tony. Oh, I was so excited to see that. Absolutely, you can. Yes. How does the app know how to populate images correctly? Good question, Allie. So what I learned from the tutorial, just breaking down that app there, the images are also housed in my OneDrive for Business, because that's my connected data storage. And I put the link to the image in my worksheet. So you don't put the actual picture in the worksheet. The images are stored in a place as well. And you copy the link to the image into your data worksheet. And PowerApps did the rest. Yeah. Is there a way of incorporating? One, I believe there is a way to incorporate videos. I also know you can incorporate camera captures as well as QR codes. Okay, let's take a step back to the National Flowers app. So I'm going back to the browser screen here, my very first screen, and I want to point out a couple of things that PowerApps added to the app. For example, there is a sorting option, so I can sort. This is where there's the plus sign, and these are action. By the way, these are called action buttons. So I have an action to add something using the app, meaning I do not have to add it to the worksheet. I can add it to the app itself. And believe it or not, it synchronizes with the worksheet, and it will put that information in the Excel workbook. I also have an element of a search box. So I can search for my entries within, as this browse gallery grows, I'm able to search through it. And when you select a field, so I've selected the search items box. Take a look at the right-hand side over here. You have a lot of formatting options available to you. Yes, it is text. You have options to change the font size, the weight, the style, whether or not you want to center it or align it to the left or the right. You have line height. You also have spell check, and I'm going to toggle that one on. Scrolling down a bit, you can change the color. You know, what color is it when you hover? What color is it when you press it? Do you want to include a tooltip? So when someone's using this application, give them a hint of exactly what would happen if they use this feature. Okay. So I turned on spell check for my search box. That's what I was going for. And now I'm going to go over here to this detail screen. Let's take a look at the detail screen. I'll make it a little larger for you. Remember, the detail screen shows the details of the selected flower or entry in the browser. And it tells the name of the country, the description, an image, a name, and if there was a nickname associated with it. So I'll back it out a little bit now. And I'm going to arrange this again because I don't like the alignment as far as the text is concerned. So I'm going to select the text, bump it over a little bit. I'll do the same thing, the information here. And notice the name of the flower is down below. I think I'm going to bump that one up as well. So I'm making a selection. I just selected a card. And over here on the right, this is where we're able to make changes to our properties. I'm going to edit the field. This time, I just want to change the hierarchy of the fields. I'm going to change the order. And the fastest way to do this, just to get to the point, is to select the field name and I can drag it up. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So now the name appears, then the country, description, image, and any nickname falls below. Not bad. What do you think so far? So let's take a look at the third app. I'll toggle to the edit screen. This is the screen that pops up when you want to make changes to an entry. We have the country name, description, and the name. I'm going to leave that there for now. You get the point. But the description box, I want to go in there because there was almost like a paragraph for one of these flowers. So I need to wrap the text. Notice when I now click away, I select it one time, it selects the entire card, meaning the label and the text entry box or input. I'm going to select it again to isolate the input box. Take a look over here in the properties. It doesn't say text wrapping. So here's another tip. It's called mode, M-O-D-E, single line by default, but I'm going to change it to multi-line. And as you can see here, now it wraps the text within that area. Okay, so let me go back to the browser screen and let's look at our handiwork as a functioning app, okay? And the way we can do this is up here in the upper right-hand corner, you see the universal symbol for play or preview. We're gonna hit that play button. And we get to preview the working application. I'm gonna go here and make a selection. It takes us to the details. And if I would like to edit, there's the edit screen and there's our description. It now has a scroll box, whereas I can scroll. And when I'm done, I'm going to close it and go back to the edit mode. Okay. And yes, you can resize these boxes. You can make this image a little smaller, make your description box larger. It's just totally up to you. Okay. I'm going to go back to the original screen, which is the browse screen, and make some other changes. Okay. You with me? All righty. The color scheme. I love blue, but it's just, I'm not getting flowers out of this one, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the theme. Much like other Microsoft products, you're able to change the theme. And we do this up here on the ribbon. So the Power App has a ribbon as well with the tabs. And on the Home tab, there's a drop down that says Theme, Theme. And there's a gallery. I have standard colors and I have our traditional Microsoft Office themes, but that's the one I'm looking for. How ironic, right? Forest. Those of you that like dark mode, it's easy on the eyes, right? So much better. So I like this theme, and I could go in and make some other changes. For example, the text at the top, the title here, I'm going to go over here, instead of semi-bold, I'm going to now make it bold because we have the dark background. And the second line here, I'm going to go in, instead of normal, I'll change that to semi-bold. And when I make a change, remember to one, it's going to make a change to the rest. And let's hit play and preview it. I think it's easier on the eyes. What do you think? A little better? May not be your first choice, but I think it's a little easier on the eyes. Yeah, nice and inclusive. Okay, cool beans. Now I'm looking at this, right? I'm looking at the app, I'm looking at the browser, and I'm like, okay, there are 3 levels here. And that third level, I don't know if you notice it, so I am going to select it again and go over here to where we edit the fields. There's another one for the body. I didn't have any information in my table that I would consider the body of my app. So I'm going to change the layout of the browser gallery. And so I'll close this. And over here is a layout option. The default says image, title, subtitle, and body. Nope, I'm dealing with pictures, so I'm going to scroll a bit. I want it to have more of a gallery feel. And so I'm going to select title and subtitle on overlay. Check this out. What do you think? It's a little bit better. for what we're going for with this particular app, this may be a better option, but it's just good to know that you're able, and I'm going to the tree just to show you again, that you are able to make a selection based on your data set and how you would like to set up your app. Okay, I'm going to hit play to show you now that we've made that change from a list to a gallery. I'm going to select Indonesia, and there it is. Using the back button, going back to the initial screen. Okay, I'll close it out. Now I want to point something out. What you see here at the very top, it's a formula bar. Just like in Excel, it actually has a formula bar. And I can see, I pretty much can recognize the what's going on here. This is my sort option, and I see that it's going to sort and search from the flower tab. It shows the descriptions of the field using the quotation marks, which is one of the rules in Excel, putting text in quotations. And then it says, I see a nice little if statement that if it's descending to do something, and then ascending is another option. Let me select one of the images here. Scroll up a bit. I'll do the title. Notice the title I typed directly in the app, but take a look at the formula bar. I could have easily made that change here as well. I'll delete just to show you. Click away, and you see it's updated in the app itself. Up here on our ribbon, what I would like to do is actually add a new screen. So let me first collapse. Let me collapse this. I don't like clutter. So I'll collapse it. So you see I'm able to easily collapse our screens. That's better because I'm going to add a screen. I want to add a screen like a landing page, right? Something so when they open the application, they're not just thrust into the database. Just gives them a moment to move in at their leisure, at their own time. So we'll do this by creating a new screen. And I have options. I can do a tutorial screen or people or calendar, meeting, and so on and so on. Right? But I'm going to go for a blank screen, right? And it appears here at the bottom of the list in my tree view, and I'm okay with that. It's called Screen 1, but I'm going to go over here on the right-hand side where our properties are and rename it, and I'll call it a landing screen. And this is really for me, if nothing else. It has nothing to do with the end user. This is so I can stay organized and know what I'm working on. And so I have a landing screen. It takes on the theme that we chose, which is forest, which is why you see the black screen here. But I'm going to go over here and add a background image. Give it a little oomph. So I'll hit add image. And I'm going to go with the mom, the chrysanthemum. There it is. Okay, I see it. But the image position, I need to do a little better with that one. The default is that it's fit, which you see the picture right there. I want to fill it out on the screen. Okay, that's a start. I'm getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there. It's a little better. Now, with this particular screen, I'm not connecting it to a specific data set. So no need to go in and reconnect or anything like that, or even refresh the connection at this point. But what I am going to do is add a button. So the user can just hit a button and then step into the gallery. So over here on the left-hand side, a little bit further than the tree view, there's a plus sign, and that's where I can find and insert icons. Not the only place. If you like to use the ribbon and you feel more comfortable with tabs, just to let you know, those same options are found up here under the Insert tab. But I'm going to go down here and I'm going to add a button. So I see button, clicking and dragging it over. It gives me a default. I can double click and I'm just going to say enter. For sake of time, I'll just type enter in there. All right, now you would think, let's preview it, that when they hit the enter button, it takes them to the browser, but it doesn't. I keep clicking it. Nothing's happening. What's going on? Well, thinking about PowerPoint again and adding animation and transitions and actions, we have to associate an action to that button. So now that we have the button there, I'm going to select it. And go up here on the ribbon, and there is a tab. It's called Action. And it's asking me what type of action. Well, I want you to navigate to the browse screen. So I'm telling it to navigate to the browse screen. Let's see what happens. Let's see if it works for me. And hit enter. And that's what I'm looking for. So now when they hit that button, it takes them into our browse gallery. I'll step away. I'm going to go back. I'll use my navigation down here and go to the landing screen and add one more element before I turn it over. This time I'm going to add a text label. So remember the plus sign, text label. I'm clicking and dragging over here. I might not have enough time to format it, but we can get going on it. I'm going to stick with that font, but I need it to be bold. I need to change the font size. I'm going to try 28. And yes, I can align it. I want the text to be centered. I'm going to name it the National Flowers Database. Yep. And yes, I understand it's that white text. And I want to make sure that the label itself is positioned correctly. So I'm going back to the Home tab. There's an alignment there. I'll select Center. It centers that on the app for me. So I don't have to waste that time. Going back to the white text is fine, but I'm going to my properties to scroll down a bit. Give that a little color. So I'm going to select orange, but instead I'll go to customize it, make it a little transparent here, try to get it to blend in somewhat. And that's better. So much better. So now when we hit play and preview the app, this is the landing page that they'll see when they open the app. Press enter, make a selection, take a look at the details. I'm going to add something now. So I'll add Spain. I'll even add a picture from the application itself. And I believe Spain is the carnation. I'm fairly confident about that one. And I'll type in carnation, click away, and then you see the check mark to submit it. It's working, it's working, it's working. And now when I scroll in the gallery, there it is. Spain has been added to the gallery. And now I'm going to really, really hopefully get you with an aha moment. Going over here to grab the associated workbook in just a moment. I'm going to set it up for you. Slide it over here on the screen. This is the Excel workbook that this application is based on, slowly but surely coming up. There it is. Look, Spain has been added. New row, carnation, a link. So this is a look at what's going on behind the scenes. That's the table, the field names. Remember, I added links. I linked it back to an image. And also important to note, there's the description, but there's a column here. And this column that you see, I did not put it there. When the app was created, PowerApps added a column. And these are just unique identifiers. I wouldn't touch this column at all. It's going to break the link and it's going to mess your app up. This is unique identifiers that's associated with the application. All right, I'm looking at the chat box here. I'm going to leave that there. Yes, I am running the app on the browser, but it does look like a mobile app. Thanks for pointing that out, Allie. So I created it from a database, but so by default, it did take on the format of a mobile app. I'll take a step back to the Power App homepage, because when you start from a blank slate, it actually asks you, would you like to create a mobile app or maybe one for a tablet? So you have options, but the default mobile. So, and I've actually tested this on my cell phone and it looks good. It's just like any other app I have on my device. Good question. All right, so back to the studio. I am going to close this out. Important to note, just because you asked me earlier about connections, over here on the left, of the pane, navigation pane, this little cylinder here represents storage. So I can always go over here and take a look at what I'm connected to. It shows I'm connected to the OneDrive for Business. But using this drop down, if I need to connect to another data source or another file, I can do that. So yes, for example, the flowers may come from a folder, right, on the browser page. But then when I go to my details screen, that information may be located in a totally different storage space or a totally different file. Well, I can connect to it over here. So you can most certainly connect to multiple areas of storage. I'll just click just to show you. That's that mom. So since I put the chrysanthemum in using the app and not my worksheet, it begins to collect those images here. So I can always go back to the image that I've added from the app itself. And I can also upload images here to refer to and use in my app. Want to get back to that tree map? It's the one that looks like a stack of papers here. At least that's what it looks like to me. I'm going to click it. It takes you back to that area. How could you set it up so it runs from a mobile device that is offline? Is that possible? Thank you, One. Number one, I downloaded PowerApps from my Android device from the Play Store. So I downloaded it there. When it comes to sharing apps outside of your organization, there is another piece to that, and I believe it's part of the resource list that I'm going to share with you. It is possible, absolutely, to work with it. Now, very important here before I go, as I close out, it's important to save it. My changes were saved, but now I need to save it to my PowerApps file set. So I'll name it. So I'll hit File, Settings, National, challenging me here, right? National Flowers app. I can give it one, and I'll just stick with some default stuff that you see here. I can change the screen size and the orientation. So this gives me a glance at what it would look like on the mobile app, right? And now that I've done my settings, this is where I would go to save and hit save down here in the bottom right-hand corner. So when I come back tomorrow, I should be able to go to the Power Studio, open this up, PowerApps, and it would be listed in my list of apps. And it takes you to the share screen for you to share with other individuals in your organization. I won't go through that. I'm going to kind of stop here because I'll keep right on going, but I am going to stop and turn it back over to our host. But let me stop sharing my screen. And I defer to you ladies where we go from here.
That was awesome. Thank you so much for the wonderful demonstration. Do you guys have any questions? These are all the important information.
The first question was if it came from me actually, if there are any challenges that you've noticed, LeAndra, using the PowerApps, and are there any features that the app is currently missing that you wish it had? And by the way, thank you so much for this presentation and hands-on workshop. It was so great. I love that.
Thank you. Well, being a novice at it, there isn't anything that stands out to me, and I guess that's kind of a plus, if you will, because it forced me to hone in on what is available to me now. So I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I wish that it would have at this time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There's another question. Nellie is interested in learning more about the Excel file structure.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. So good question. So what I did learn is that in the Excel worksheet, number one, it has to be in a table, okay? But it has to be just data, like no pictures, the numbers, no currency formatting. It just said that it had to be just raw, clean data. So when you are in your Excel worksheet, I know we're used to formatting our data. That won't make a bit of a difference when it comes to the Power App. None of that is going to carry over into the app itself. One more question. The special identifier in the last column, could you please talk more about it? Where is this unique number coming from? Good question. So Nellie, it actually came from PowerApps. So when PowerApps connected it and created the actual application, it automatically put that column in there for me, and those numbers are random to me. I have no clue what they mean. I just learned that if you touch them, you break it. So I just left it alone. You're welcome.
I actually have a follow-up from Nellie's question. So
Okay.
then, assuming now that that Excel sheet is connected to the app, can we still edit it, or the only way we can edit the Excel sheet is through the Power App? The same way how you added the
Ooh.
Spain flower, can we
Yeah.
still add more through on the Excel sheet?
Yes, you can add more to the Excel spreadsheet, and when it synchronizes, and you'll see it on the other end in the app as well. As a matter of fact, I shared the Excel spreadsheet with someone else so they could add information, and it didn't bother the connection at all.
And the only thing they don't have to do is add that ID, like add anything to the ID field.
That is correct. That's the only thing you don't have to add it. That one's added for you once you spin up the app. Yes.
And Nellie's asking, how do you
You
synchronize
it. So in the Power App, in the Power App Studio, there is it doesn't say sync, it says refresh. So you can always refresh your connection over there where the tree map was, or the tree view and the little icons. There is an icon in there for you to refresh the connection. It did it automatically because I didn't hit that button when I added Spain. I didn't hit the button at all, and it was synchronized in my Excel workbook. You're welcome.
Thank you. These are all wonderful questions. This was really amazing, and I feel like we have all learned a lot of new skills from today. So that's
Thank
wonderful.
you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. You've been such a great instructor, and I love how you were interacting with all of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and as Nelly said, you made it look really easy, which we all appreciate. Thank you so much. Well, thank you everyone else who joined us today, and we hope to see you in our future events.